world, it's Keely and I'm back for another video. This is going to be my November wrap up. I had to remember what I was doing. I read a handful of things in November. I want to talk to you guys about them, and then I want to talk to you about what I'm currently reading and kind of my plans, and give you updates on like all of the trackers and crap that I have in my reading journal. I am going to be painting my nails holiday colors. I figured this could be like a very chill, impromptu wrap up because I need to get back in the swing of filming. Not that I took any time off that you guys would have noticed, but the end of November did not go how I thought or hoped it would go. I will have a timestamp down below so you can skip this whole beginning portion if you want to. No pressure at all. I was having a really solid November, to be honest. I was filming a bunch and doing a whole bunch of cooking and baking and all of that. We had an incredible Thanksgiving with friends. I cooked and baked all week, basically, like all day Thursday and then some on Friday, and then we went to see our friends on Saturday. So we had a lovely time. I posted my Thanksgiving week vlog to kind of document the week because I was excited for it, and it all worked out really, really well. The recipes that I made were really yummy, so I will happily recommend those, especially the chocolate pecan pie. We didn't have bourbon, which is what it called for, so we used a spiced rum instead, and it was a wonderful substitute. My plan was I was going to wrap up the Thanksgiving vlog, get it edited and posted on Sunday the 30th. What happened instead was we came home Saturday night and just hung out with our dog after our friend's house, had a lovely time, went to sleep. I slept in on Sunday, which I normally don't do, but I did, and my husband woke me up and said, "Hey, you should call your sister," which is never a good thing. I knew exactly what was about to happen, but there's only one scenario where my sister would ever text my husband, and that's if she can't get a hold of me and it's an emergency. And the emergency was that my dad had died. And so I'm not gonna go into it a ton because y'all don't need to know all of the details and all of that fun stuff. Just that my dad was sick for a very, very long time. I had not talked to him in many years. I didn't willingly talk to him in a couple years, other than when some other family stuff was going on that required us to kind of interact with each other, and it was always very like cordial, like whatever. I mentioned in some previous videos that I don't have a relationship with, a solid relationship with a lot of my family. One person in particular being my dad. I was kind of estranged from him. My dad didn't know that I identify as queer because he wasn't the kind of person that would accept that. It's been a lot this past week, having to kind of deal with my own crap and physically all of his crap and all of the stuff that happens after someone that lived 70 plus years dies. So needless to say, I did not get a ton of reading done this first week in December. I'm trying really hard to get my routines back. That's how my November ended. I'm trying to get my life back. Anyway, okay, so timestamp will be only a couple minutes. Let's get into all the books that I read. I have updated a handful of things in my reading journal. First, let's start with the Read What You Own challenge. Still going strong with that, but like I said, my reading really slowed down. So I am sitting at 8 books read in November. That counted towards this because we started the 5th. And then I wrote down like December right here. So the Read What You Own challenge, I am doing reading 25 books before I buy any new ones, and so far that's been going very, very well. I have all of my stats and stuff. I didn't do my stats for October, so let's quick do that. In October, I read 22 books. 23% of that was from the library, 27% of that was books that I bought in 2025, and 50% then otherwise were old or ebooks, so books that I had prior to 2025. In November then, I also made a little thingy. This is just a layout that I'll be using for the end of the year. In November, I read 13 books. 7 were from the library, so that's 54%. 2 were books I bought so far in 2025, that's 15%. And 4 were books previously bought or ebooks, so that is 31%. Now we can go through. I have my story graph pulled up so I can tell you what I rated all of the books. The first day of November, I finished 2 books. Both were very short. The first one that I read, both of them were from the library too, which is amazing. The first one that I finished was What Stalks the Deep by T. Kingfisher. This is the 3rd book in the Sworn Soldier series. I think there's only 3 books. I don't know if she's planning on doing more, but this is a cozy horror fantasy series. That's kind of all of what T. Kingfisher does. And you're following a soldier as they are having like different things that they have to do. I honestly don't remember a ton of it. Other than that, it's the same character that I've been reading about for a couple books and have really been enjoying. So I'm happy that I read that one. Let me look up. I can click real quick and tell you what the first book is. The first book was called What Moves the Dead. That one came out in 2022. And it's about Alex, who's a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend, Madeline Usher, is dying, and they have to go to their ancestral home of the Ushers in a remote countryside, and there's a lot of mushrooms, and it's wonderful. I really enjoy these books. I love T. Kingfisher. The second book that I finished on that day was also from the library, and this one was Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I have this list of authors I've never read from, but a lot of YouTubers that I watch really, really love them, and Claire Keegan is one of them, so I wanted to read at least one of her books. This one is very much just kind of a like rural Irish slice of life. It takes place in the 80s in a small Irish town during the weeks leading up to Christmas. And it's about Bill, who is a coal merchant and a family man. And he has 5 daughters. And he is delivering coal to a local convent and ends up making a discovery about the convent. And then kind of it's just like his response to what he's encountered. And when I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is fine. Because I don't live in Ireland, I don't quite understand the full scope, I guess, of Claire Keegan's impact on Irish literature. I know that she's like really well respected and Irish people tend to like her, I guess, which is good. But I thought it was good. I thought it was fine. I haven't really thought about it since I read it, but I enjoyed it. Oh, so I was supposed to be telling you. So What Stalks the Deep, I gave a 5 because I absolutely loved it. Small Things Like These, I ended up giving it a 5 because it was just like a really well done, like short snippet of someone's life. And I didn't hate it. It wasn't like my favorite thing I've ever read, but I enjoyed it enough that I was like, I think that deserves a 5. Also felt a little bit of pressure as an Irish person living in the United States to be like giving Irish people their credit. I don't know, whatever. The next book I read after that was from my Kindle. I bought this last year or the year before. This one was my first John Wyndham, The Midwich Cuckoos. And this one I gave a 4.5. The Midwich Cuckoos was crazy. It is about this town. I'm trying to remember kind of the setup because I remember like portions of it. Okay, it's an English village. Yes, a mysterious silver object appears and everyone in the town that's near it or like within a certain radius, everyone goes unconscious. And you're following at the very beginning this couple that is trying to come home to the town, and there's like military and police that are like, you're not allowed in, and they're like, why? What is going on? And they're like, you just have to trust us that like you're not allowed to come in. And this couple is like, nah, screw that. And so they go off that road and like around to a field. And as soon as they hit whatever barrier there is now, they immediately go unconscious. And the rest of the book is kind of uncovering what this silver thing was and why it caused people to go unconscious, and then the aftermath of that. And it was weird. It was so weird. And it says, yeah, the description says a day later, the object is gone. Everyone awakens unharmed except for all the women are pregnant. And yeah, that was wild. It was absolutely crazy. I really enjoyed that. I definitely want to read more from John Wyndham. And I've heard good things from Jen Campbell. She's read a bunch of his stuff. So that was the 3rd. Then also on the 3rd of November, I finished another one from the library. This one was another short one. This one was O Caledonia by Elspeth Barker. This one I gave a 4. This one takes place in Scotland, and it felt medieval, but yeah, mid 19th century, I guess, is what it was. You're following this girl and her family, and I realized that I am mixing up the story of O Caledonia in my head with Briefly a Delicious Life. They're somewhat similar, but like not really, but I honestly can't super remember. The little description says Janet lies murdered beneath the castle stairs, attired in her mother's black lace wedding dress, lamented only by her pet jackdaw. Yeah, I don't remember anything from this book. It's very vibey, I'll give it that, but it's been a month and I don't remember anything from it. I know people really like it, so that's why I wanted to read it. I've looked at it a billion times at Barnes & Noble, but I never bought it. I don't remember anything from it, I'm so sorry, but I enjoyed it. Anyway, moving on. After that, this is the problem where I read a lot in a short period of time. I either remember everything or absolutely nothing from these books. The next one that I read after that was The Fell by Sarah Moss. So here's another author that I had on my list of like people absolutely love her, so I wanted to read one of her things. This one is less than 200 pages, got it from the library. I gave it a 4. This one is about a woman, and so it is during kind of like lockdown for COVID, and she lives with her son, and one day she goes out into the garden and she falls. She like goes for a hike and she falls. And it's literally just like a slice of that town and what happens when this woman is completely isolated and falls and gets injured. I again remember enjoying it. I gotta click on all these damn books and figure out like what the hell did I read, because I don't remember any of them. A woman goes out of her garden gate. Kate is in the middle of a 2-week quarantine period, that's what it is in 2020, and she can't take it anymore. She wants to go to the moors, which are deserted at this time, and like no one will know. Her older neighbor Alice sees her leaving and is like, what is she doing? But she goes, and Kate ends up falling and gets badly injured, and then so it's Alice and Kate's son Matt, and then kind of the town figuring out what happened to her. And it's just very much about like isolation. I enjoyed it. Again, I don't remember a ton more than that. I'm so sorry, you guys. This is like the worst wrap up. After that, then a book I took on vacation with me because we went to Connecticut in October and end of October, and then I finished it in November, was The Impusium by Olga Tokarczuk. And this is a translated novel from Polish, and Olga has won like the Nobel Prize in Literature and stuff. And this one is a health resort horror story. Like that's what it says on the front cover. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it, so I wanted to read it. And I'd say it was like super duper vibey. I did really enjoy a lot of it. I ended up giving it a 4. So you're following this guy that has tuberculosis, and he gets sent to this health resort to try to like recover or feel better. And while he's there, you're kind of like, you're following him and all of the other men that are in this resort. You're also following the one of the doctors whose wife supposedly commits suicide, but we don't actually know what happened. And then while you're reading about the main character, every once in a while the narration will change from like his perspective to something watching him. And it's so weird. It was very, very weird. I will say, as I got towards the end of this book, I did start kind of skimming it because it just felt like it was taking a long time for me to get through the end of it. And I didn't really know why. I just wanted to kind of be done with it. And then I did go on the Wikipedia page just to make sure that like I understood totally what was happening and what I was reading. It's like a lot of commentary on gender and sexuality. It was weird. Yeah, I read a lot of weird stuff at the beginning of November. I enjoyed it. I mean, I would like to read more from this author. I am not sure when or what I will pick up next. I enjoyed the storytelling and the writing. This one was just kind of weird. Let me just continue to click on all of these so I can read you anything that I'm completely forgetting. It's a lot of like philosophical stuff. So the questions that they have listed are: will there be a war? Is there a monarchy or democracy? Do devils exist? Are women inherently inferior? So the author has like there's a note in the book that says like a lot of the dialogue, like the concepts that the men are talking about women, which are pretty horrific, were pulled from famous like actual philosophers and psychologists and stuff at the time. It's like another commentary on life. And yeah, so someone or something seems to be watching them and attempting to infiltrate their world. They've already chosen their next target. People compare it a lot to The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, which I haven't read, but I do really want to read, but that one's like a bajillion pages. So I don't know when I will get to that one, but that one is another like dude goes to a health resort thing for tuberculosis or something like that. This one was really good. It's one of those books that makes me feel like I don't know enough about the context of the author or their life, and so some of it kind of goes over my head because I'm like, okay, I can see what you're saying. I don't know why you're saying it, like what prompted it. Like, you're more than welcome to say it. I just don't feel like I'm getting the most out of it. Like, I feel like that's one that I would read for like a college class to like study it. After that, then I I finished reading The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. This is the first book in his Dark Materials trilogy, and this was my third time reading this damn book. This one I gave a 4. You're following Lyra, I don't know how to say her name. She's a little girl in this world where everyone has what they call like daemons or demons, and it's basically like a piece of you that manifests as an animal, and when you're a kid, it can change shape, but as you get older, it eventually will settle on one particular shape. And there's a lot of like good versus evil kind of happening. Her uncle is like really famous and he is out exploring in the Arctic, and there's the Aurora Borealis and lots of stuff happening in the north and all kinds of shit. Like, I don't know how to describe everything that's going on in this book, but I reread it because I wanted to finish out the trilogy for the first time ever. The previous 2 times that I read this book, I enjoy so much of it, and then as soon as they say kind of like what the whole concept is, it just takes me out of it because I just don't enjoy stuff that has to do with religion like this. It, yeah, continued to do that. So I gave it a 4 because I do still enjoy the world building. Like, I think that's fun. Still not my super favorite. One I read after that is actually a favorite was The Fated Sky. So this is the second book in the Lady Astronaut series by Mary Robinette Kowal. This one I gave a 4.5. The first book was The Calculating Stars, I think, and I looked it up. The author has said that the first 2 books are a duology, so you could read them as their own thing. I have the third book in the series. It's about a completely different character, but in the same time period. It's like happening at the same time as the first 2 books are happening. It's just from the perspective of someone else. I loved this book. It was so good. So I was worried that I wasn't going to remember enough from the first book in order to pick up immediately and read this one, because I read The Calculating Stars a couple years ago, but I remembered so much of it and it was so easy to continue reading. In the first book, you're following Claire, who is a kind of mathematician, I think. She's a scientist and an astronaut, and her husband is an engineer. They work for NASA, and in the first book, there is a gigantic meteor that hits Earth and wipes out basically the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. And then from that point on is kind of like the beginning of the end. Like, there's a ton of climate problems all over the world, like mass casualties, famines, all kinds of stuff. And in the first one, Claire and her husband are pulled into this team of people that are going to the moon to determine if they can have settlements on the moon as like an alternative to Earth. Because it takes place in the 50s, Claire encounters a ton of sexism through basically every part of her life except for with her husband, who's like a wonderful support system for her. It's just wonderful. I had such a great time with it. The first one pissed me off a lot because of the sexism. Like, that was part of the story. And then the second one was so good. You just learn more about the characters. You're introduced to more of the politics of what's happening, because as soon as you start pulling people to go to the moon, all of the crap happening on Earth will come with it. So it's like all of the politics and all of the like classism and sexism and racism and all of that comes with it. Who gets to go to the moon is like a huge question. Absolutely wonderful. Super duper loved that one. So I will read the third one at some point, but knowing that those 2 are duology, it's like, oh cool, I can mark that off as another series that I completed. After that, I read the second book in another duology. It's listed as book 2 in the Littenverse. I don't know if there will be more. I would love for there to be more, but this one was written in 2021, so it's been a while. This one is called Defect by Nino Cipri, and the first book takes place, like both of these books take place in this like fictional IKEA, and it's like very clearly supposed to be IKEA, but there are like time rips and weird monsters and stuff. And the second book follows a different character who was created to be like the perfect employee of this fictional IKEA. One day has to take a sick day, and it's like the end of the world that this dude has to take a sick day. Afterwards, he comes back to work and they're like, hey, you're gonna help out with our inventory process that we have to do. They have to do like a monthly or annual inventory thing. And I used to work at Walmart when I was a teenager, and I remember the whole inventory process. It's kind of a nightmare. It takes freaking forever. You're basically just going through and counting absolutely everything everywhere in the store. It's a lot. So he's like, okay, I will be part of this to kind of make up for the fact that I had to take a sick day. Well, the night he shows up to do the inventory, because they're going to do it overnight, he encounters a bunch of clones of himself, but they all have different personalities and it's wild. I really, really loved it. It's only 166 pages. I could have read so much more than that for this character and the little creatures that are involved. It was just so much fun. I really, really enjoyed this one. After that, I finished the third book in the Founders trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. This one was Locklands. And this trilogy I started around the same time that I started the Calculating Stars. I think I read like all of those first books in the same year. This one is one that I absolutely love this universe. I didn't want it to be over. I gotta say, the ending did kind of let me down a little bit. I pulled up the Storygraph page for the first one, which was Foundry Side, and it says in a city that runs on industrialized magic. And so it's basically just like magic of objects. You can like manipulate objects to get them to do things. So like all of the carriages are like mechanized, and it's a lot of like robots and types of things like that. In the first book, you're following Sansia, who is a thief, and she is supposed to steal something in like a very heavily guarded warehouse. And in the town that she's living in, there are kind of like these noble houses. And so it's very obvious, like people that are impoverished are on one side, rich people on the other. And there's kind of like a civil war brewing in the first book. And as you're following Sansia and she's getting introduced to all these other magicians and all of these people that are involved in different ways, you're just starting to uncover more of how society is being held together. And then the next two books just continue to follow along with some of the characters that Sansia interacts with. And the third book kind of really goes back to Sansia and what she is experiencing. It's so good. It's really, really good. I love Robert Jackson Bennett's writing. I love the world building. This one, it very much felt like, and I've had this happen with a couple of end of series books recently, where it's like there's so much buildup, and then you think it's about to wrap up, but you realize you have like 100 pages left, and you're like, what are we doing? Like, are we finishing up or not? And then they're like, oop, just kidding. Actually, that won't work. So we have to try this next thing. And it starts over again of like all of this buildup. And then you get to what you think is going to be the wrap up, and they're like, oop, just kidding. And it just felt like, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if we had just wrapped it up faster. Than how many like other storylines kind of ended up playing out. One of the big storylines at the end of this book was kind of predictable too, which was really a bummer, but that's okay. Overall, I did really enjoy it, and I'm very excited to get back to, or to start, another Robert Jackson Bennett. So my husband wants to buddy read the Tainted Cup books that have come out. There's 2 of them so far. He wants to read those next year, so that will be my next Robert Jackson Bennett. Eventually, I will go back and reread City of Stairs and finish out that trilogy. For now, I did really enjoy that, so I gave that 4. Then I read half of The Warden by Anthony Trollope. I marked it as a 3.5 and just like marked it complete. I read, yeah, over half of this one. This one is a classic. It's the first in the Barsetshire series, and this one, you're following this warden of a church, and there's also this like building that these old men are living in, and they're being kind of taken care of by the church, and the money that he is receiving as the warden and kind of the allowance or income that these old men are getting was dictated by the last will or like the estate of a previous person that was in charge. And someone shows up. It's like this dude that's eventually going to be the warden's son-in-law shows up and is like, well, I don't know if you guys interpreted that correctly, because the warden is getting a crazy amount in income and these old men are getting basically nothing. So I'm going to contest this will and how you guys interpreted it. And that's basically the whole thing. It's just this small town where everything was fine. People were kind of just living their lives, and then someone shows up and they're like, I don't know about that. And it just kind of like drags on and on. I was really enjoying the writing, but every time that I picked up the book, I was like, how am I not done yet? Like, I felt like I've been reading this forever. So I ended up just looking up the Wikipedia page to see what ends up happening. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm fine with the ending, whatever. I did enjoy the writing style. I, think it'd be fun to read another Anthony Trollope, but maybe not in this series. Maybe I'll try to read something else that he wrote if I can find another story that I think is interesting or has like an interesting premise. But I'm happy that I did finally pick up an Anthony Trollope, because like Katie from Books and Things absolutely loves Anthony Trollope. So I've spent years watching her videos and hearing her talk about rereading his books, and I'm like, oh, okay, I finally kind of read one. So I marked that one off as completed, because whatever. After that, we've got another one that I just plowed through and ended up looking up kind of the outcome of this one. So I was reading a nonfiction for spooky season. This one was The Haunting of Alma Fielding by Kate Summerscale. I had read The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher by Kate Summerscale a couple years ago and really enjoyed it. She writes a lot of, I think she's only written nonfiction about like true crime or spooky things. And I know she has a new book out that I'm somewhat interested in reading, but this is the one that I had from her that was unread. So I was like, okay, I will just, pick it up and start reading it. And this one takes place in the 1930s. And in London, I believe. There's this guy named Nandor, which was incredible because I love What We Do in the Shadows, and Nandor is such an iconic character that the whole time, anytime this Nandor guy was talking, I was hearing it in Nandor's voice. He was a psychical researcher. I forget what they called themselves, but it's basically this group of men in the early, like late 1800s, early 1900s that became obsessed with ghosts and the occult and all of that, and took credit for everything basically. And he is trying to prove himself in this world. No, it's real life. This was a nonfiction. He's trying to prove himself to all of the other kind of psychical researcher guys. And he hears about Alma, who is this housewife that is starting to experience what sounds like a poltergeist. So you're kind of following Nandor and his life and what he's dealing with. And then as he gets introduced to Alma and starts working with her, and then their kind of experiences together documenting what's happening to her. So it's a lot of like, you leave a room and then a butter dish will explode against the wall, or something goes missing and you find it a week later somewhere that there's no possible way it could have been, things like that. And he is 100% buying into all of this with Alma as real. And then at different points he starts to be like, well, it seems like she's faking it. Is she faking it? And that's what this whole book is about. But the more that you learn about Alma, the more to me, it was very obvious what was happening. And because it's set in the 1930s, like context is everything. She's a housewife in the 1930s. And I'm gonna kind of give it away without giving it away. It's a trauma response. Like, no, it's not real. I would love for it to be real. I love that shit. I've read a lot of books about this type of shit. It's so much fun, but it's really interesting from like a mental health perspective, how things manifest. And the more that Alma does things, the more invasive Nandor and the other researchers become, where she's strip searched and she's tied down and all of this stuff. And so she's like perpetuating trauma to her body and her brain as part of how she's responding to trauma. And so the more you learn about her life, you're like, oh, well, duh, she's just like undiagnosed and like could use a lot of help. But overall, yeah, it was really interesting. However, same with The Warden, where I was just like, oh my God, wrap it up. Like, we get it. Like, I felt like this could have been a novella, like lengthwise. It didn't have to be a full 350 pages. If you've read the full thing, definitely let me know if there are parts that like I should have kept going for, that I, would have added more context. But I felt like, I got over halfway and I got it. I understood what was happening. Like, I knew what the outcome was going to be. I'm happy that I marked that one off. I do really enjoy Kate Summerscale's writing, but overall, it was just kind of like let's wrap this up. Then I finished 2 more books in November. The next book that I read then was the 3rd and final book in the Scholomance trilogy by Naomi Novik. This one was The Golden Enclaves. I gave this a 3.5. I loved the first book. I really, really enjoyed the second book. The third book let me down. So this universe, you're following this girl, Galadriel, and everyone has different kinds of magic, and she is sent to the Scholomance, which is this school that trains kids and teenagers how to use their magic, and it's all like self-study. There are no professors. The school is also trying to kill them the whole time, because for every like good type of magic, you have to pull, and it creates bad types of magic, basically like monsters and shit. And Galadriel is kind of an asshole the whole time. She was named Galadriel, so that's going to be the first reason that people bully her. She also is someone that her natural inclination is to use dark magic. And because of that, everyone is scared of her and they treat her like shit. So she's been, from when she was a little kid, never had friends. No one wanted anything to do with her. She was abandoned at different points, like neglected and all of that. And because of that, she's very defensive. In the first book, you get it. She's aggressive and defensive and a dickhead, but she's kind of trying. In the second book, she's growing a little bit, but she's still kind of trying. In the third book, she's just a straight up dickhead. And like, she does have relationships. She has some friends. She is kind of recognizing that there are people that care about her, and that's like a weird thing for her. This was one that it very much felt, again, like there was a ton of buildup, and then the ending just like threw all that away. This to me kind of reminded me of the final season of Game of Thrones, where it was like, what did we just spend the last 700 pages doing if this is going to be the ending? If you've read this trilogy, overall, I would say it's really, really good. But there were a couple like storylines that I was like, what was the point of that if this was how it ended? I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I'm happy that I read it. I'm not a huge Naomi Novik fan, honestly. I've now read 4.5 of her books. I tried reading the Rumpelstiltskin book that she wrote, and it was so boring. I could not get into it. I'm so sorry. I know there's people that are like diehard Naomi Novik. I did read though Her Majesty's Dragon, something like that, and His Majesty's Dragon, is it something like that? I have the first 3 in those, and I loved that book. I thought it was so great, but I didn't continue on. It's like buried on my shelf back there. So I do have more Naomi Novik to read, and I would love to eventually go back to those. But yeah, this one I was like a little bit disappointed. I'm happy that I finally finished out this trilogy because it's one I'd been working on for years, but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with that ending. And the final book that I finished in November, I finished it the night of November 30th, the second book in the His Dark Materials trilogy. So I read The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. This one I gave 3 stars. Y'all, I don't care about Lyra, whatever the hell her name is. I don't care about her. And it's just like, screw this little girl. I don't care about her. You're introduced to this little boy, Will. I love Will. I thought Will was great. He was such a good character to offset Lyra's bullshittedness. I know she's supposed to be very like privileged in a way and very sheltered, and she's from a different world, so there's like kind of like world hopping. It's not really time travel, it's like world hopping. Will is a more modern character compared to Lyra, and as I was reading it, I was just like, I don't give a shit. Every time I went back to her perspective, I was like, just shut up. Like, I just don't care. I felt the writing was really weird at times in this one. There were some things that happened that I was like, that was dramatic and had no reason to that. And then as the people were explaining like why they did what they did, it was very like, I had to do it. You don't understand. And the other person's like, okay. Like, it felt dramatic and weird. I don't know. It's probably more of a me thing because I wanted to be done with this frickin' book. I wasn't enjoying Lyra. Finished up this book and I told my husband, I was like, I think that's it, y'all. I have tried. I gave the Golden Compass 3 tries. I gave the Subtle Knife 1 try. And I think I strongly right now think that if I read the 3rd book, I would go into a reading slump. Because I just don't give a shit. So I feel so bad because people love this trilogy so much. And I know he has like additional books, like the Book of Dust and all of that. And I wanted to like it. I really, really did, y'all. But I just don't know if I'm ever going to read the 3rd one. I really don't know. I might just look up what happens. I don't know. If you're also a hater of this, I'm not a hater. I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to. And I think it's really because, again, with the weird... I don't know if it's a spoiler, the weird like religion aspects of it that I'm just not a fan of, at least how it was done. I don't know. Overall, I had a decent reading month. I read a lot, but I didn't necessarily absorb a lot of it. The beginning of the month, we were still on government shutdown, so I wasn't working. Then I went back to work for a week and a half, and then it was Thanksgiving, and then now it's the end of the first week of December, and I'm kind of trying to get my brain back together. This is Editing Keely. I realized I forgot to include, I have this spread. Since I started my reading journal in September, it goes from September to August of next year, and I filled in for November. So in November, I read 13 books. I bought 0 books. I listened to 0 audiobooks. 7 were from the library, 2 were ebooks, and 1 was a reread. Did pretty well in November. I'll take it. Overall, a decent month. I will give it that. In terms of what I'm currently reading one thing. And that is very much ending up being a comfort read, and I'm super happy for that. So that is Of Monsters and Mainframes, and I can't remember who the author is. I have this as an ebook copy on my Kindle, like on like a daily deal. I am loving it so much. So this is one that it's a sci-fi. It's from the perspective of a couple characters, but primarily from the perspective of this transport ship. It's very, very comforting because to me, it reminds me so much of how I felt reading the Murderbot series, which I've read twice now and love so much. It's super duper fun. The transport ship ends up becoming known as like a haunted kind of because everyone on a couple different trips has died, and the ship is trying to tell people like, I didn't kill them, nothing went wrong on my end, there was something else happening. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, I don't believe you. And it's because the things that are happening on this ship is monsters. So there's like a Frankenstein, there's a Dracula, there's werewolves, there's mummies. It is so much fun. I'm having such a great time with it. I am 80% of the way through it. I was reading a bunch of it last night. I will finish it up this weekend. I'm having just so much fun with it. Throughout December, I am doing my Wrap It Up readathon project. So I will have more updates on how that is going. But as of right now, I'm only reading 1 book so far for December and just taking it one day at a time. Let me know how your guys' reading went in November. Did you read any books that you would like definitely recommend? Because I'm always looking for more books to add to my TBR. I think we all are. So let me know how y'all are doing. I hope y'all are doing okay. I hope if you celebrated Thanksgiving that you had a good holiday, that you're being kind to yourself and doing whatever you need to take care of yourselves. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.